Welcome to Business Reporter's Future of Healthcare campaign. Social prescribing is at the heart of the government's long-term vision for the NHS and its sustainability. Social prescribing involves referring primary care patients to a range of non-clinical services, such as art classes, singing courses or sports initiatives, to improve well-being and tackle the scourge of loneliness and depression. The government has provided £5 million to the National Academy of Social Prescribing, the body that will lead this event, and 1,000 social prescribers have already been appointed to GP practices with a target of reaching 900,000 appointments by the end of 2024. Opera may not be the first thing we think about when considering the future of health, but it is centre stage in a progressive approach that delivers physical and emotional support to primary care patients. It is even providing a route to recovery from COVID-19. I'm Danny Buckland, and I'm joined by Professor Andrew Corbett-Nolan, founder and chief executive of the Good Governance Institute, a leading force in healthcare excellence, Dr. Harry Brunias, a founder of the College of Medicine and chairman of the English National Opera, Jenny Miller, an acclaimed opera singer and director who founded the Barefoot Opera, and Dr. Jonathan Levin, principal GP at the Derwent Medical Centre in London. And today we're going to discuss how social prescribing is finding its voice. I'd like to turn first to Professor Corbett-Nolan to outline the Good Governance Institute's role in promoting health excellence and the importance of social prescribing. Andrew.
Well, this gives us an opportunity to bring two things we're really interested in together. So a great deal of our work is with large public sector boards, and particularly the NHS. And social prescribing is a really important tool in the armoury for NHS organisations to have. And I know you're going to be hearing more about that later. We're also very interested in, through our corporate and social responsibility programme, through opera for one thing. And it's a great pleasure to be able to support the national company, the English National Opera, and also a smaller professional organisation down in Sussex, the Barefoot Opera. One of the things that brings these two organisations together is, of course, their love of music and the art form, but another is the imaginative way in which they've used social prescribing to broaden out their appeal and to do something more for the country.
Dr. Brunias, tell us how the ENO became involved in social prescribing and why opera can help our health and well-being.
Well, this has been a very interesting year for English National Opera. We've become involved in two projects this year which have the word social. One is social prescribing and the other is social distancing. We're not here to discuss the social distancing productions, but I couldn't fail but allow myself to disappear into that alliteration. In terms of social prescribing, it's a topic which is a new phenomena to healthcare in this country, but in fact is as old as the hills itself. All of us in medicine, and that, as you kindly said, was my first career, know that there's as much art form as there is science to medicine. And there are genetic reasons why people fall ill, there are environmental reasons, and there are social reasons. Throughout the world over the last maybe 100 years, a lot of well-being and resolution has been on biomedical pathways, but it's becoming increasingly accepted that environmental and social factors have a part to play. So social prescribing is a concept which good medics, doctors, nurses, and the complete range have been practicing for many years, which has now been better organised, better understood, and brought together in one academic discipline.
And in particular, you've got a pilot study, I believe, with Imperial College to have a 6-week course for people to study breathing, singing, to improve their well-being, but also to give them a boost if they've suffered from COVID-19.
Correct. Well, this is one of these wonderful moments. They often say out of a crisis, sometimes good things can happen. We have a very active outreach, education and access department, which we named after Lillian Bayliss, who was the founder of ENO back in 1931. And I was sitting with actually 3 or 4 of my medical colleagues there from when I was in clinical practice and our head of Bayliss. And we were just thinking about what could an art form like opera, like a world famous company like English National Opera, how proactive could we be in the arena of social prescribing? And literally within 10 seconds, we fell upon this phenomenon which has been discussed this year, which is COVID lag, which is to do with fatigue and just problems with respiratory function post-COVID. The pathology of that, I won't go into the real detail of the pathology, but it has both a physical and psychological component. So we spoke about it in great length. We shared our views with the respiratory department at Imperial Hospital. And we have come up with this idea we call E&O Breathe, where people who are struggling and having a slow recovery, convalescence post-COVID, are being taught to sing lullabies by opera singers. Now, they are a form of music which people can sing without having to be exceptionally trained. And we are teaching people how to breathe correctly as a singer would breathe, and hopefully to try and minimize the anxiety they're suffering because they have difficulty with breathing as well. So it's a trial which is now halfway through. There's a cohort of approaching 40 patients. The initial results are extremely rewarding, but it is our wish at the end of the trial to produce a paper which is worthy of being published. So we want enthusiasm to actually end up being as evidence. That's where we're heading.
Okay. And can you see it then promoting social prescribing on a wider level and more creatively?
We are confident that this E&O Breathe project will be successful. We then have acquired funding from some generous supporters and institutions to roll the whole process out throughout the country.
Well, that's fantastic news. I'd like to bring in Dr. Jonathan Levin now. He's the lead GP at the Derwent Medical Centre. It has a 5,500 strong patient list and looks after 170 care home beds. So really at the coalface here. Welcome, Dr. Levin. You work at a very busy GP practice. How do you use social prescribing?
Well, we've had social prescribing in the practice now for probably getting on for a year. Initially, our social prescriber was coming to the practice and was seeing patients in the practice itself. But when COVID hit, her role had to change and she was seeing people more distantly. But also, she did a lot of the health checks, or social checks, I should say, on people in high-risk groups to make sure they were okay, and signposted them to us if we needed to see them because they were unwell. Since then, we've returned to a more normal form of social prescribing. So we pick up, as GPs and nurses and reception staff, patients who've got social needs, isolation issues, medical needs that can't necessarily be met by us as GPs or our hospital colleagues, and we pass them on to her via a referral service that has been developed, and she then has a consultation with them and links with them and helps them to link into services that will help meet their need, which are mainly charitable services. Mm-hmm. There are some NHS services available as well.
Okay, and how do patients respond to this? Because I think we understand a lot of patients want to go and see the doctor, want to come away with a prescription, and without that, they feel they've been shortchanged. Is there a degree of education we need to take here?
It's not mutually exclusive. We still see the patients for the medical things. It means that we can concentrate more on the medical things, pick up the areas where social need is not being met or might help, and pass them on to the social prescriber who can then help with that, which enables us to focus more on the medical areas. So they're not necessarily not going to get a prescription, but they are going to get the social prescription.
What are the challenges then that we may face in adopting social prescribing? Is it funding? Is it regulation? What are you encountering?
We haven't encountered any problems as yet because it's the early days. And the NHS is very, very good at putting things into practice in the early days, doing a pilot study. And the risk is that they'll decide there isn't enough money to carry it on. I think it's got a very good future if it's funded. If it isn't funded, then it's going to wither.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lubin. Jenny Miller, an opera singer and former Glyndebourne soloist who established the Barefoot Opera, a creative social enterprise which brings opera and performers to the community with workshops and productions. Jenny, how has Barefoot Opera collaborated with social prescribing?
Well, Harry's story about the lullabies reminds me of our first engagement with a group of vulnerable adults at the Seaview Centre, a local day centre for vulnerable adults. And they had requested that they get help singing some Christmas carols for Christmas a few years ago. And so Barefoot Opera got involved in helping, and seeing the joy in their faces and the response these people had, the centre then found funding from just such a charitable fund, as Jonathan mentioned, to promote more activities for the choir and to make it more available. And we've been sort of involved with them on a project basis, and that's led to us doing more and more outreach work with the community. It's just so rewarding. And finally, we're doing a big a new opera project for the community, a community opera called Bloom Britannia. And in fact, the wonderful Good Governance has been helping us with seed funding. It all needs that kind of help, so to happen. And that led us specifically to work with Tara Reddy, who runs a company called Arts and Prescription. And Arts and Prescription is exactly that sort of middleman. So Jonathan would be sending, or his colleague would be sending patients to Tara, and Tara offers a smorgasbord of creative activities, and we do the singing end of it.
You mentioned, Jenny, there it's really rewarding. Could you tell me what it's like to witness someone whose health and well-being has been improved by a social prescribing project?
Oh, well, I mean, it's lovely when people come into a group saying, I'm pissed off, I'm fed up, I'm whatever, and leave saying, I'm so happy now. I really feel better, And I don't think we should underestimate the importance of feeling happy. I could read you some lovely quotes from a refugee group we worked with. This is a day center called Links, and again, they offer various things to the clients that come into the center. And we got them to write down some of their responses. So, I am very happy. I try to sing English, and I sing, thank you for happy. Or here's another one, I like it because I'm very happy. And then this woman is an Egyptian woman who was very articulate and spoke very good English. She said, life needs different stages of happiness. Notice this, happy coming up. Mm-hmm. And singing is one of them. Music and singing are the balm of life. Now, I love that. It ties right into social prescribing. We've got a nice medical reference right there. It's very rewarding, yeah.
Yeah, social prescribing, the modern balm. That's a great description, and I think we can see there the actual impact when we have loneliness and depression as the principal drains on the NHS. It's fantastic to see something could help. I mean, would you like to see more funding being put into this, Jenny? What would help you and people like you continue to do your work?
It absolutely requires funding. Apart from anything else, we are trying to reach everyone, including people who really can't, they can't say, oh, I've got plenty of time today and I've got plenty of money and I think I'll just take up singing and pay 50 quid for an hour's session with somebody. We're not dealing with those kind of people. We're dealing with people who we want them to be able to do this and not feel the drain on their resources. So funding is critical. And it's not, it's not that expensive in some ways. I mean, it's pretty expensive to put on an entire opera for an entire community, I have to admit. But in each individual event that happens, the teacher and the group, the leader, the facilitator in the group, it's your voice, it's your body, It's
Great.
it's available.
Jenny, thank you very much indeed. I'd like to conclude now by asking each of our participants about the future of social prescribing, what they think it needs to sort of progress. And Dr. Brunius, if I can ask you first, what needs to change in order that we will get the best from social prescribing?
It's not so much a question of what needs to change. I do get the impression from central government that there is a wish and a momentum to get behind it. There has been, I believe the figure, maybe some of my colleagues can correct me, I think there's been £5 million funding to create the Academy of Social Prescribing. So it now has a home and a base. And there are undoubtedly throughout the country a great deal of advocates. It is now becoming more accepted. We just hope that ripple becomes more of a wave and more practices throughout the UK get involved. The more people utilize it, the more people will become confident with it, and the more success they will have. And it's not there to completely erode biochemical approaches. It's complementary. In some cases, social prescribing may be successful on its own. In some cases, it may be biomedical successful on its own. And there'll be a large cohort of situations and presentations where it's a combined holistic approach, which actually will make the ultimate resolution. And as Jenny would said, may make the patient better, but will also make the patient happy.
Great, thank you very much. And Dr. Lubin, can you see yourself doing more social prescribing, and can you see your colleagues doing more?
Well, I already am doing more of it. So it's certainly picked up since we've had access to it. The referral process has been made much easier. We're in the process of getting some feedback from the social prescriber for each individual case, which has been a slight hitch in the software. But definitely things are moving on. We're using it more. And the more we use it, I think the more we'll find that patients respond and like it. And if that leads them to not require as much from us, from the psychosocial issues that they face, then it will be very popular with GPs and patients.
Thank you very much indeed. And Jenny, can you see more creative arts projects stemming from social prescribing?
I think it's very much the direction that, for example, the Arts Council wants us to go in. The next 10-year program is called Let's Create. And there's a huge emphasis. I mean, they've been responding to all this incredible wealth of evidence and the kind of work that Ian is doing, the kind of work that, all this evidence is influencing their direction in a very good way, I think. And Let's Create wants to bring creative practitioners, trained practitioners together with the creative souls in our community, all of us, to join together and not treat art as, us and them.
Professor Corbett-Nolan, and listening to your fellow participants, what role do you see social prescribing having in the future of healthcare?
So in the jargon, it's called building community assets. And to keep our NHS sustainable, this is really important. In a world where many of the determinants of ill health are things like loneliness, exclusion, lack of confidence, lack of mobility, it's very important to be imaginative about how you can encourage new lifestyles, give people new confidence. And some of the social prescribing you've heard about today, you might have called physiotherapy, you might have called it breathing physiotherapy, but instead it's singing a lovely lullaby with Harry's colleagues at the English National Opera. Or it's learning to be included, feeling confident and happy with Jenny at the Barefoot Opera. It's a way also, the other way round, of forms of art that have been seen as exclusive, as playing their part in helping us have a healthier society and an NHS that will see us through the coming decades.
Professor Corbett-Nolan, thank you very much indeed. I mean, this has been a fascinating insight into a novel way of creating better health outcomes for patients at a time when the NHS is under critical strain. I'd like to thank the participants and the Good Governance Institute for their insights on what is clearly a hugely important and powerful theme. Thank you.